Welcome to the Veterinary Rehabilitation Podcast, where we aim to help fellow veterinary rehab therapists increase their knowledge and elevate their practice. I'm Megan Kelly.
And I'm Anae Lloyd. Together, we bring you the latest insights, research, and information in the field of veterinary rehabilitation.
This podcast is brought to you by Onlinepethealth, a leading continuing education membership for veterinary rehabilitation therapists. With Onlinepethealth, you will have access to a wide range of online resources to help you stay up to date with the latest techniques, advances, and trends in the industry.
Our podcast features in-depth conversations with leading experts in veterinary rehabilitation. They share their own experiences and knowledge to help you improve your practice. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out in the field, our goal is to provide you with the tools and the insights you need to succeed.
So join us as we explore the exciting world of veterinary rehabilitation and help you take your practice to the next level.
Welcome to the Veterinary Rehabilitation Podcast. It is the 1st of November today, which means there are only 9 more days to go before the Vet Rehab Summit on the 10th and 11th of November. The countdown is on. We are so excited. In this year's summit, we are talking about the myofascial kinetic chains with Wipke Albrandt and Rika Schultz. I always worry I'm going to switch their surnames around, but they are phenomenal lecturers who have done the research, have been teaching courses, and have been lecturing on the subject of the myofascial kinetic chains for years now. The knowledge that they have to share, the experience that they have to share is incredible. Together with them, the author that put together the Equine Myofascial Kinetic Chains is Tove Due. She is also a veterinarian who has been working in acupuncture and osteopathy for many years and has helped to develop the assessment tools and the treatment techniques for working with the myofascial kinetic chains or lines. Tove joins us today in this interview to talk about how to assess these lines, how to treat these lines. It's a very interesting conversation. She shares how they developed the treatment techniques and how they tested their reliability. Before we head over to the interview, I want to really challenge you guys to share the information that you learned today, have conversations with your colleagues, share something on social media, a takeaway, a nugget. We really do want to hear from you and learn with you. So please spread the word and share it far and wide. Before we head into our interview, I want to say a big thank you to our sponsors, Respond Systems. Choosing the right therapy laser and PEMF system for your practice are big decisions, and that's why Respond Systems has been helping to make that decision easier for over 40 years by offering both Class 3B and 4 lasers, as well as a full line of PEMF products designed for both small animals and horses. As part of the Paw Prosper family of brands, Respond Systems is dedicated to providing you with a customer and patient-centric approach to rehabilitation. Find out more at respondsystems.com. Over to our interview.
Hi guys, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. So while we are waiting for everyone to come online with us and join us live, I'm going to take a moment to introduce myself and Onlinepethealth. I am Anae Lloyd. I always forget myself first. I'm Anae Lloyd. I'm a veterinary physiotherapist in South Africa, and I work for Onlinepethealth. Onlinepethealth provides continuing education to rehabilitation therapists all around the world. We do that in a variety of different ways, but our primary core is through a membership platform where we provide monthly webinars to our members. These webinars are presented by lecturers all around the world. We love learning from different people and different perspectives because that's how we get the most as learners, as vet rehabbers. It's so great when we can connect and learn from one another. And that's really a core thing that we believe, that there's something to learn from everyone. But we also have so much more than just our webinars. We do monthly research summaries, business training. We have a free blog that's open to everyone. The Veterinary Rehabilitation Podcast is a phenomenal resource. If you're not subscribing and following that yet, you need to go and find the Veterinary Rehabilitation Podcast on any of the streaming platforms where you listen to podcasts, we'll be there. Right. And then the Vet Rehab Summit, which is why we're all here at the moment, is our annual conference where we come together live once a year. This year, it's on the 10th and 11th of November. And our theme is the myofascial kinetic chains. I do hope that you already know this, but I'm going to tell you anyway. So Vibke and Rika are our lecturers for the 2-day conference, and they're going to be going through the kinetic chains in canines and equines and discussing what they look like from an anatomical perspective, and then also how we are going to apply that knowledge and use it in clinical practice. Because we always want to take what we learn to our practice, to our patients. I have found from reading the book and just kind of learning in my own steam, so much practical application in my own patients. So if you don't have this book yet, we do recommend you get it. Ideally before the summit, because I think it's going to be really great to have with you as they speak through the lines. But if you get it afterwards and you go through the content again, that's 100% fine. So the summit is the actual conference. And in the Vet Rehab Summit Facebook group, we love providing free content to you guys and free learning. So this is how we're doing that. So the prelims are our free events that we are making available to everyone, whether you're a ticket holder or not. And we're getting warmed up and learning about the fascia from, again, as many different sources as we can. So I'm really excited to have Tove with us today. I've definitely pronounced that wrong. It's great to have you, but she works with Vibke and Rika, and she is one of the authors of the book. Okay, so please will you introduce yourself? Let us know who you are and your journey into working with and understanding the fascia.
Okay, thank you for being here. I have been a veterinarian since 1990, and I think it's probably 10 years since I started to take interest in fascia. Before that, I worked with classical acupuncture for 25 years, actually, but I've always been interested in acupuncture. I worked with it a little bit when I was a student, and osteopathy also is one of the tools I use. I've been an osteopath for 20 years. The interest in fascia, that came later. That was in a dissection course made by Vibeke and Rika Schulz. And suddenly it dawned on me what was the missing link, and that was the fascia. In my previous treatments, I thought that something was missing. I could treat maybe C1 one week, and when I came back the following week, it was back again. And looking at the fascia, I got very excited to find a treatment for this. And this was what I used the following years to find the treatment for the fascia.
All right, that's I love that. Really the missing link, and I'm finding that as well, is that we have different ways that we've been working with the nervous system and with the body, and like really using really gentle touch that we found to be very effective. But what we haven't understood is how those things are affecting the fascial system, and that is really the key to understanding what it is we're doing and how we can be more effective, right? So today's chat is about assessing the health of the fascia, which is really important because it's great to understand. It's great to understand what we're looking at, but what does it feel like and how do we look at that? And I've asked you to talk about that and the treatment side, because that's kind of the part that you help develop and talk about in the book, correct?
Right.
So, all right, so let's jump right into it. What are the different ways that we can test for dysfunction within a fascial line?
Okay, well, we have many ways to test the fascia, but I think the most common way to do is to test the range of motion in the fascia. This is what we already do. So one of the tests is to test the range of motion. We perform movements with the legs, with the back, with something else, which shows us where the limitation is in the fascia. This is the functional test. And then we have the swing test. And this is a funny test. people think, because it's a test that I developed and named.
Mhm.
I found out when we have an affected fascia, if we move the body in a kind of movement, it could be a swinging movement, the movement stops when we touch the fascia. So
Okay.
if I'm doing, it was just an incident how I found it. And I figured out, okay, maybe we could use this. So I tried to make a swinging test. First of all, I did the functional test to be sure that it was a fascia I was working with. And then I did the swinging test. And then I followed the fascia. I swinged with my right hand or maybe left hand, depends on which side of the horse I am. And then I followed the entire fascia. And every time I got off the fascia, the movement continues. And when I got on the fascia, the movement stopped.
Okay.
And this could also be a way how to find which fascia is infected or affected. Because if you don't know where to start, you can just make a swinging movement and then touch somewhere, and suddenly it stops. And then you can think, okay, this place could be that fascia, or that fascia. And then you can continue on all these fascias to figure out which of all these fascias is the right one to start with.
Start with. Okay, so essentially two ways, the functional tests and then the swing tests, right?
Yes.
And the functional tests include all different functional movements. It's not just one movement, and that depends on the specific line that you're looking at, correct?
Well, I have made specific tests, but that is because I find that some tests are better for the line than others. And
Okay.
some of the tests are really indicative for that line, and it would be stupid not to use them. But it's up to the person who reads the book or who does a test to find his or her own test, because you know what you want to test him. But what we write here is just a help to get the right line.
Okay. And then the swing test, so your hand is on the tail and you're creating that like rhythmical swing throughout the horse's body or spine,
Yeah.
which is that's a great technique that we often use as part of our treatments, but I've never done it as a part of the assessment.
Yes.
So that's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Did you do a little bit of like an experimental period where you were testing this, and are they always related? So if the functional test is showing dysfunction in a specific line, the swing test also shows dysfunction. Are they 100% connected, or do you sometimes have one positive and the other one not, or vice versa?
Well, if I have one positive and one not, it's not the correct line. So it's always, the swing test is always positive when the functional test is positive, but you can't make something wrong in testing the functional test. So if you think with the functional test it's one line, and if it doesn't react on the swing test, you have to do the functional test again and find out which line it is. But because it's sure that both the swing test and the functional test will be positive.
Okay. Have you found that people learn how to do the swing test quite easily? Is that an easy an easy test to learn to do?
Yes, I think it's easy, but it's difficult to learn from the book, because you have to do the swing test in the right way. If people just do it like this, now we are swinging, the entire body will stiffen up, and then you can test nothing. So
Okay,
if
so
you do
I
swinging
have
test,
to.
you have to get a good swinging test where you feel that the body is swinging without restrictions at all.
Okay.
And when you're satisfied, you can put your hand on and stop it.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. All right. So can you talk us through the treatment points? Because I find it very interesting that you have developed one specific kind of point for each line, except for the spiral lines that are crossing over, there are multiple. And you've spoken that you have a background in acupuncture. Are the acupuncture points related to the points that you've developed for treating the specific lines?
No, they are not.
They're not.
It's a system only for the fascia. Some of the points may be near acupuncture points, and you also, if you want to, you can make connections to the classical acupuncture system. But on a dissection, actually, we dissected the classical acupuncture points, which showed a fascia going into the body. That was a classical point. And then we took the myofascial points, and there were no connection. So the point for the myofascial points is only intradermally.
Okay. Can you explain that again? So on the dissection, what were you seeing?
So if you take a point, you see the white fascia going from the point. If it's an acupuncture point, it goes down in the muscle, and maybe it follows into the body. Maybe it's a point on the bladder meridian. Then you can follow the fascia or the connective tissue down into the muscle. But this is not the case with the myofascial points, the myofascial kinetic line points, which I found. These points doesn't have that connection to the muscles.
Okay, very interesting. Nicole Ashton, this is the book. It's called the Equine Myofascial Kinetic Lines. And even if you are treating small animals, working with small animals, I would still get this because there is a lot of crossover. So this book is available. We've listed it as a recommendation on the Vet Rehab Summit website. That's very easy to find. It's also on Amazon, and it's also on the Fascia Lines website, where it will be directly from the authors. All right. So Tove, what is I think the most important thing that's kind of been highlighted for you on your journey as you've come to understand and work with the fascia more?
The most important thing. That was a question.
Yes.
Well, the most important thing is that everything is interconnected.
I love that. I love that. That was also Rika's most important thought that she left us with in the first the first interview. And I love that because even though we learn our anatomy, and it's origin, insertion, innervation, function, and now we're learning the kinetic lines, which is a greater connection between those different muscles with similar functions. So now we're learning that more connected, anatomy view, but even still, to create those lines, you use a knife. So they're still connected to one another, and their function is connected to one another. I really love that. I'd love to know how the tests relate to palpation. So the palpation of the fascial structures, the fascial lines I know that there are so many different viewpoints of how practitioners have been looking at the fascia. So they haven't necessarily been looking at the lines, but there are different perspectives, right? Different ways of viewing the fascial connections. And palpation has been a very big part of how we assess the health of the fascia. So can you talk us through how palpation is going to connect back in with our functional and our swing tests?
Of course, if you have a fascia which has a problem, you will feel that the fascia is very tight, and where it connects to the bone, maybe you will have a hard feeling. The fascia can be thick. It can be thin, but mostly it's a little bit thicker, and it feels very stiff.
Okay, awesome. So some changes in the feel of the fascia.
Yes.
And then, of course, there are areas where the fascia where there are multiple lines that are interconnecting, right? Like the thoracolumbar fascia. So when you're using a functional test or a swing test, and you're testing that thoracolumbar area, how do you differentiate which line might be affected?
Yes, that's a good question. If we take an example, let's take the functional line, which is going over the thoracolumbar fascia. Then you can do a swing test and putting your hand on the thoracolumbar fascia, and then the movement stops. But it also could be maybe the superficial dorsal line, which also passes through that area. Then you have to follow up those two lines. Then you have two possibilities. You see this area, the movement stops, and in this area we have that line, that line, that line, and then you follow them in the connection in the whole connection through the body and make the swing test on the entire pathway and confirm your diagnosis.
Okay.
We also have the functional test for the functional line if it's that. Then make a movement from the hind limb towards the diagonal front limb. And this is the only line which may have this restriction. So
Right.
if you just read the book and you take both the functional test and the swing test, you cannot miss it.
Okay.
Because I designed the test so that we remove all the differential diagnoses, and we if we're done the test, we're sure that it's the right one.
Right. Okay, so the process would be, and I would love to know, is this how you practice 100% of the time now, or do you do things differently for certain cases? But if I'm understanding, the process of evaluation would be to you're going to look at your horse and get a history and look at the posture and the movement as per normal. And then from that, you'll have an idea of what you want to start testing. So you'll do the functional tests, and then you'll do the swing tests and differentiating which areas are affected. And then to treat that, you're going to use one or two specific points that you guys have developed, either with acupuncture or a different modality that you can tell us about. And then you retest. And is it as quick as that there will be a change in the function?
It is. So when I start my treatment, I just take the horse out and look at the movement. And out from the movement, I try to guess which line is involved. I look at the stride length and how it moves and how it bends and everything. And by the way, or in the time, you would learn how to look at the fascia and figure out which one of the fascias it is.
So that sounds very quick. That's like a very quick,
it
almost
is.
treatment.
So I treat half an hour maybe, and then we go out again and look at the horse, and the movement should be perfect. So maybe I could talk a little bit about how we made a little bit scientific studies how to test the fascia. We made kind of range of movement studies where I tried on the front limb abduction line. This line is a line which abducts the front limb. And to test that one, the test is to move the front limb in front of the body like this. So if you have a restriction, let's say I'm a horse and I can only move my leg like this, then I measure the angle from the sternum to the humerus and wrote it down. So then we had something to compare with, and then I treated the point, and then we did like this. So you could measure the angle, and that was a lot smaller than before the treatment. And in the control group, I made the test like this, then I put the leg down, and then I made the test again, just to be sure that it was not the movement of the front limb that created the range of movement improvement. And that was right amazing.
And did you repeat that for all of the treatment points?
No, I took that one because it was easy to measure something. But I also measured the length of the back from the withers to the tail, but I didn't put that in a study. And then you could look at the centimeters, how long is the back. So if you treat the entire body, the back is getting even longer. But the problem with that was that we had so many other interfering lines, which is actually shortening up the body, the diaphragm, the functional line, and everything. And the reason why I took the front limb abduction line was because that we only have the retraction line, which can interfere in that one. So it was a very specific place without so many interruptions.
So did you do that as a study and publish it?
No, we didn't publish it yet. I just did it, and it's. I think we want to publish it.
Okay, yes, please do publish it. Please do. I love trying new things, but I'm also very skeptical. So I will always try something, but in the back of my mind, I must be critical and decide for myself if it really works or not, which I think is the right approach. I think it's not about just deciding that something is weird and out there. You got to try, investigate for yourself, and then make up your own mind. So please do publish that. We would love to share that and see that. Yeah.
Yes.
So how else, many of us are not veterinarians and therefore don't use acupuncture points or acupuncture as a treatment modality. How else could we stimulate or influence those points? Because the kind of normal go-to for us would then be to use acupressure. But when we're working with the fascia, that's not the best approach, is it?
No, it isn't. So the treatment method you're going to use has to be short and effective. So if you use pressure, I think it's maybe you have to use too much or too hard pressure or too quick pressure, but you could use a tuning fork like this just to put it on here. You could do, this is a tuning fork.
Okay, so how do you apply that?
I just make it sound like this.
Yeah.
Can you hear it?
Yes.
This. You hear it?
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah.
Yes. And then you put this end on the point and the vibration goes into the point. So lots of people are not allowed to use needles, and then they can use a tuning fork. They can also use laser.
Okay. Okay. What about decompression using a tool like cupping where you're creating space? Would that also be effective?
I don't think so effective because this happens in seconds. We make the test, then we say to the point, release, then it releases. I tried to put something on the point, which was a long-lasting treatment. I took magnets to put on points on myself and leave them there and to see how it worked. And what happened was that my body was tightening up like this. It was getting too much information. And after, maybe under an hour, I had to take them off because it was very uncomfortable. So I think the treatment method you have to use has to be short and precise. Like if you say, if you want your daughter to go and pick up something, you say, okay, please give me that. Then you don't say, on the way you could do that and that and that, and then pick up this. So then she would get what she should pick up.
Okay, that's very interesting. So any long-lasting things like kinesio tape, those would not be good things to use.
Not too long, but you could do it if you have a weak fascia.
Yeah.
Think about if you have a fascia which is too weak, then you could put a piece of kinesio tape on the point and then ride the horse. If the reason is not that the antagonist to that fascia is too strong, then it's the wrong treatment because you have to treat the strong and release that so that the weak fascia can work. But you could have an injury, or you could maybe have, if you're human, you could have, you see people with a brain damage who cannot move their hands. Then you can put a piece of kinesio tape on that line that you want them to work with, and then it works.
Okay. Awesome. So Nicole Ashton's asked a question. Thank you. With the swing test, are you moving the entire animal or just moving the fascia? Sorry if that has been covered. Maybe you could describe that one more time.
Yes, I can. So in the swing test, I just move the entire body. I swing the horse, not just like this. It has to be a very soft movement where I swing the horse. And when I feel that the horse is moving like the wave on the beach, then I put on my hand and the movement stops if it's the right fascia or if it's an affected fascia.
Okay. And Sophie has asked, how exactly must you be on the treatment point when you do needles? I'm not sure exactly how to answer that one.
I know how to answer that one. You have to be very exact, maybe in a space of 1 millimeter.
Okay, wow. That does make it challenging, right? You have to have
Yes,
exactly the right spot.
but
Okay.
if you take it a little bit away from that, of course it will work. But if you want this amazing one,
Mm.
it's very small, that point. In horses, of course, it's bigger than in dogs. So maybe let's say 3 millimeters. If you're a
Oh,
learner,
mm.
I don't think you should start using needles. Use tuning forks, because the vibration will spread and you will get best results in that way.
Okay. Nicole, I also wanted to tell you actually that when you get this book, the tests are demonstrated in videos. So in the back of the book, there are a bunch of QR codes, and they've demonstrated all the tests in video format, which is really useful. So that will also help you to understand exactly how to do it. Yeah, that will help. What frequency tuning fork do you need?
This one is 128, but mostly we use 440, which are the normal tuning forks for your guitar and everything else.
Awesome. And they're pretty easy to get hold of on
They are easy
Amazon
to get
or
hold of. They are.
perfect. And I think this will probably be our last question, although if you guys jump in with more, we'd be open to that. How does fascia get affected by the acupuncture needles?
Is the question how it gets affected when I put it in the point or in the fascia?
I think in the point, let's start with in the point.
Okay, in the point. So if we put it in the point, it will stimulate nerve cells in the skin, and the nerve cells will transmit to the brain to release the fascia.
Okay. And if you were to use acupuncture needles through the fascial line in different areas?
I would only do that if I have a certain problem in the fascia, maybe a scar tissue or something else. And then, of
Okay.
course, it will release it.
Yeah. Myofascial trigger points?
Well, I haven't used them.
Okay. All right. We have lots of comments. I found the book really amazing. I got my book yesterday. Whoop, whoop. Sissy says it's fantastic how the swinging test works. Sometimes the test totally locks the movement and the acupuncture needle just releases it all totally. So there we go. Someone who's been using this and doing this. Can you tell us where did you just read the book and then try them out, or did you go and train? Because these lovely ladies who develop these techniques do have courses that they host, I think, annually. I think that they've just done one. So we are not only running prelims this month, we are not only counting down to the Vet Rehab Summit, we are also challenging all of our members to a month of webinars. We've just launched a new feature in the online pet health memberships, which logs or tracks all of your continuing education points. So everything that you watch through the online pet health membership is tracked in that logbook. It makes it really easy to keep track of what you're doing. It makes it very easy to see how many points you have accumulated within a continuing education or CPD cycle. If you're a registered professional that needs to log those points, it makes it super easy to find all your certificates in one place. And it means that we can see what you guys are watching and where you are active in your membership. So this is an amazing, incredible feature that we've been working on for quite some time. We're very excited to give it to our members and to celebrate, and of course, to test out the functionality of it and see how we can keep improving it. We are running a month of webinars. The Vet Rehabber or the online pet health member who has watched the most webinars by the end of this month, so come summertime, will win a textbook. And we are still figuring out which textbook. The obvious answer was this one, but most of you have it already, so we can't make that a prize anymore. So we're going to find another one. I think Julia Luamala is publishing a textbook on the fascia, so that would be a really good option if it is published in time. Otherwise, one of our other incredible textbooks on the subject, there are so many. So if you're an Online Pet Health member, let us know if you're accepting the webinar challenge and if you're going to give it your all this month. We have shared a bunch of webinars that we recommend you start with because we're talking about fascia. There are so many fascia webinars in our library. Those are our starting point for you, but you don't have to. You can start anywhere you want. There are hundreds of webinars to choose from for those of you that are not members and that are not familiar. Hundreds of webinars in every single membership. So there really has never been a better time to sign up as an Online Pet Health member. Join the challenge. Members get VIP free access to the Vet Rehab Summit. So if you want to come to the summit, now's the time to sign up as a member and just register for the summit. Okay, thank you so much for your time today, Tove. It's been great chatting to you and learning from you. I cannot wait for the summit. All right, guys, have a wonderful day today. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please hit the subscribe button so you get notified every time I load a new podcast. I'm here every week talking to vet rehab therapists from all over the world about all things vet rehab. A big thanks to our sponsor, Response System. Their sponsorship allows us to be able to give this podcast out to you for free. So go and check them out. You can go to responsesystem.com. Don't forget to bookmark the next Vet Rehab Summit on Friday the 10th and Saturday the 11th of November. Come and be a part of the world's largest online veterinary rehabilitation conference created specifically for you, the vet rehabber community. Online Pet Health members get VIP complimentary access to the Vet Rehab Summit. For more information about continuing education for vet rehabbers, you can go to onlinepethealth.com.